Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Internet Access for DC Students Qlik and QuickBase Applications Training. We're going to get started in approximately about 2 minutes to give space for others to join us. And I'll be right back and on camera at that time. Thanks so much. Good morning again. Thanks everyone for joining the Internet Access for DC Students Qlik and QuickBase Applications Training. We'll get started in just a few moments to let a few others join the call. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Internet Access for DC Students Qlik and QuickBase Applications Training. My name is Stephanie Davis. I am the Deputy CIO at the Office of the State Superintendent of Education, and we'll walk you through this training today. We're going to go ahead and get started. If we can move over to our agenda. So I've done a quick introduction of who I am. We're going to talk about the summary of the program, and then we'll go into some deep dives into each of the applications that we are sharing out with LEAs on today. Again, if you have any questions that you want to chat to us during this session, by all means, please go ahead and put those questions into the question chat box, and we will ensure that we respond to them in real time during this session. All right, to get us started, let's talk about the, sorry about that. Let's talk about the summary of the program. Who is eligible for this program? DC will pay for at-home internet for households with school-aged children enrolled at DC traditional and charter public schools that receive SNAP or TANF benefits. Both Comcast and RCN recognize SNAP and TANF as eligibility requirements for their low-cost internet programs. How are we determining the address that will receive at-home internet? Octo will be using the student address identified in the student information system as the household address for each student. Students who are virtually learning from locations other than their primary address will need to be flagged by LEAs in a separate form before September 25th. And what do families need to do? The primary guardian will receive a call, text message, or email from DC government asking if they like to join the program and for consent to share their name, address, phone number, and email with the internet provider that will be providing their service, either Comcast or RCN. Comcast or RCN will then contact the household to initiate the internet installation process. From the point of contact with Comcast or RCN, the household should receive their install kit within 5 to 7 days. We can move forward. I won't go through the entirety of this timeline, but a summary of the program timeline and how things are going to progress over the next month or so. Today, you're receiving the OSSI Qlik app training, and then you'll also get access to the Qlik app and a QuickBase application for capturing the connection address when it is not the primary student's address. I won't go through in detail each of these dates, but this gives you an idea of the time frame and when a parent should expect to receive communication from both Octo and Comcast or RCN if they opt into the process. Okay, so we'll talk about the application's considerations. The first application is a Qlik application. It's called the School Year 2021 Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund application. Some little insight into that application. Data are fed nightly from the LEA student information system into OSSI. The application will refresh at 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. daily, and we'll talk about the 3 p.m. refresh. Access is granted to the head of school and the LEA data manager. The student address is considered as the connection address. The students who are both stage 4 and stage 5 and meet the eligibility criteria are included in the application. Only the parent guardian listed as the primary guardian will feed in the application, and only 2 primary contacts will be reflected. So make sure that you're flagging the parent guardian as the primary guardian in the contact type in your sys feed. You should be using this time between today and Friday to ensure that the data are accurate and updated in your student information system. The second application that we will walk through today is the School Year 2021 GEER Fund Connection Address, which is a QuickBase QuickBase application. Sorry about that. This application should only be used when the internet connection address is not the same as the student address. Data entered in QuickBase is fed to Qlik twice daily, and that's at 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. So therefore, you can see the updates at 9 a.m. and at 3 p.m. Only the LEA data manager will be granted access to this application. The contact information for the new student connection address is required, except for the email, the apartment number, and the quadrant when DC is not selected as the state. At this time, we're going to flip over to the Qlik application so that we can walk through the application with you. I have not seen any questions come in. Leah, do you have any on your side?
No, do not.
Great. I must be doing an excellent job explaining. So let's go to the Qlik application.
We do have one question. Is the session being
recorded? Yes, it is being recorded and will be posted onto our OSSE website within the next day or so. Okay, in the Qlik application, in the LEA stream, you should see the school year 2021 Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund application. We're in a training site, so you see the word demo written in there, but only because we're in the training site. The word demo would not be in your application name. If we'll go ahead and click on the first sheet, of which there are 3 sheets in the application. So the first sheet is the GEER Fund eligible sheet. There are several ways of which you can filter through and get to your students. You can filter by USI, student name, the parent guardian name, or the status of service. Right now, we have inputted all of the appropriate statuses that will come through from Octo, but in your application at the moment, you will not see any statuses of service, only because that this work has not begun with Octo, and therefore they're not yet feeding us back the status at this particular time. That's going to take about a week or 2 for you to see information to populate in that particular field. The student count is the count of all students who are found to be eligible, meeting the criteria of either being a recipient of TANF, SNAP, or both, and being in the school age range for your students. The connection address count, which we'll talk further about in a moment, is those students where the primary student address is not the address for which we want to cover the internet connection. And you have now provided an additional address for the internet connection, and that details that number of students who have a separate address from their primary student address. As you go over to the right, the status of service is just a breakdown of how many students are within each service category as we get data back from Octo. And then at the bottom, as you know, in each Qlik app, we show you the population of students who actually meet this criteria. As we scroll across to the right, you'll see information for each of the fields, excuse me, that we are providing to Octo, and by virtue of consent through the robocalls to RCN or Comcast for further service. I'm going to stop for a second. I see a few questions coming in. Will we receive copies of the deck? Yes, once we upload the training recording to the website, the deck will be included in that recording. For eSchool Plus users, is the contact type field what indicates the primary guardian? There's only a guardian option, so it doesn't distinguish between primary guardian and just regular guardian. So Jeff, I'll make sure that your eSchool Plus contact reaches out to you to make sure that you have that information appropriately. The next question is, can the presentation be emailed to K Hodge at Capitol Village? Ms. Hodges, Kiana, if I email you, I got to email everybody. So I will see what's possible around doing that email of the deck. I cannot email the presentation because it'll be too huge of a file for the recording to go out. But I will check to see if I can email the deck rather than you guys, excuse me, going to the OSSE website to receive it there. Do I need to identify whether the student's guardian receives SNAP or TAP, or does Octo do that once their name is in the database? And so Taylor, OSSE actually gets information from DHS around TANF and SNAP recipients. So OSSE is actually determining which of those students meet the criteria based on their TANF and SNAP eligibility that we get from DHS directly. Hi, Lindsay, how are you?
I'm good. I have the wrong name. Do you mind if I just add something right there?
I was like, the name and the person are not matching up. Yeah, not quite the same. So just for everybody to know, Lindsay Parker is our Chief Technology Officer for the district, and she is here to talk about more if we have questions around the program. She's here to give us a further insight.
And I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page that Octo will not know whether your family is in SNAP or TANF. We just know in general the families that we are utilizing are participants in SNAP and TANF, but that specific information is not something that we know. Our lawyers just want to make sure that every time that question comes up, I say that.
Yeah, we're not sharing. We're just saying that they're eligible for that. We're not sharing if they are receiving TANF, SNAP, or both with Octo or with the other external partners from OSSI. The next question on the line is, if a family already has internet, you might as well stay on the line, Lindsay. There are going to be a lot of questions. If a family already has internet but wants to get or use this program instead, what would they do?
Yeah, so we're gonna send out some communication, a communication package for each school. It should be ready. It's almost ready. It's in draft form right now, so it should be ready by the end of the week. But the idea here is we want you to, based on sort of what you've done with your school community, we want you to assess the questions. So one of the questions that we will be asking each of these households is, do you have internet for your student for the school year? If they say no, then they'll be asked, do you need internet? So that's the, we'll kind of make sure that we are very clear about what answers your folks should give if they do need us to pay for internet. So if they already have internet essentials, we can pay for it, but they just have to say, we want the DC government free internet when we ask for consent. I didn't say that in a very clear way, but do you have any questions about it? I'll try again.
Well, I would say that the next question kind of alludes to what you just answered. If we've already set up our parents with Comcast Internet Essentials,
yes,
we are paying for it already, but how can we switch them over to OSSI's or Octo's this GEER
So
fund?
we're not going to go outside of our process, but you should help your families understand that when they receive the text, the email, the robocall from us, it'll say, this is from Mayor Muriel Bowser. Would you like internet, residential internet paid for by the DC government, provided by RCN or Comcast? And we'll get into that in a second, but we want your folks to say, yes, we would like that free internet. And then we can put them into the system that way. But we're not gonna do one-offs and transfer those accounts just because we're already stretching the limits of Comcast and RCN's processes. And so we have to use the system that we've set up, which is robocall, text, email communication to these households, asking if they want free home internet provided by DC government.
Okay. The next question is, and I think I'll be answering this one, is what if a family has SNAP TANF, but it's not showing up on the list? The data has to come through the feed from DHS to OSSI. If the student is not coming through the feed and showing that that student is receiving SNAP or TANF, I cannot put them into the GEER fund eligible bucket into that population. So therefore, it must come through the feed from DHS. And we have that question come up a lot, especially when we're talking about how we recognize our families and code them for the purposes of the audit. It says, how long would it take families to get set up with the OSSI internet access, late September or sooner?
That is the question. And so we have been trying to work with Comcast and RCN for a number of weeks now to get everybody okay with this process. And so sorry that it's taken us so long, but we're asking you to update this information right now before the end of the day on Friday. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm having some computer issues. Okay. Before the end of the day on Friday, so that on Monday, I can send a list to Comcast and to RCN of addresses in our universe for them to tell me what homes they can service. And then the following week, I'm going to start texting, robocalling, and emailing our universe, asking if they want this service. Once they say yes, and that's where we're going to need all of your team's help in making sure that we're communicating to families to expect these calls, robocalls, the texts, and the emails, because we need them to respond pretty quickly. And we'll reach out to them for 2 weeks Every Wednesday of that second and third week of September, we'll be sending a list of requests to Comcast and RCN. After we send those requests in, Comcast and RCN are in a position where RCN can go kind of quickly, but Comcast basically has said if we're able to send them 20,000 addresses, they can get them set up in about 3 weeks. But the issue is I got to get them consent. So once I get them that consent, that's when the 3 weeks ticks off. So I believe that what that means is at the beginning of October, we'll see these accounts set up. But then we're going to do it again at the end, September 25th. I'm going to ask you again to make sure that the SIS's information is as accurate as possible, because we'll reach out again to folks that still need internet. So it's going to be, we're going to sort of do 2 cycles and see how much money we have left over. Does that make sense, or am I?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
If a family reports they did not get a robocall, can school staff support them with registering for the program?
That's a good one. No, we're not doing like a come y'all, like apply here, right? I'm trying really to be intentional about this so that we, so that Octo isn't in an awkward place of verifying and validating a household. What we will do, and actually Stephanie, we talked about this and I can't remember anymore. We're gonna have a form, and this is a separate form. We're gonna have a form for schools to report any problems that their families are complaining about. And I can't remember exactly where we said we were gonna put that though. This was something that we talked about on our first crazy conversation.
Yeah, we probably have to circle back, and I think we should probably just put it in the same QuickBase app we're gonna talk about in a moment.
Yeah, and so there'll be a place where schools LEAs can flag any concerns that you have and questions that you have. We have a team of 4 that can go through that list and troubleshoot.
All right, and one thing to say to LEAs now is that you should be confirming that the email and the phone information that you have for your parents and guardians are accurate now. This is what you should be spending. We'll talk about this toward the end again. This is what you should be spending the time between today and Friday, is ensuring that all of your data and your information are as accurate as possible. And it says, will the robocalls and text be sent in multiple languages? That response is yes. We're going to send over to Octo the native language for the family that you have flagged in your student information system data that comes through your nightly feed, so that they can know that they need to do the robocall in a different language for that particular household. The next question, are there any ways to make this easier for our families that speak limited or no English at home? Which answered the first question, would there be any collection of preferred language for contact? And that is in your native language that's in your student information system. It says, when I log into the Qlik application, will it share which of my families are eligible? Yes. Here on this sheet that is on the screen now, the GEER Fund eligible sheet, are all of your families by virtue of your student who are eligible for this fund. So you will not need to reach out directly to your families to identify if they would like the service. By virtue of the robocalls that will go out to them, or the emails or the text, the family will then need to opt into the service by clicking on one or responding appropriately according to the email or the text, so that they can then, that gives their consent to allow us to give the information over to RCN or Comcast to further the process. All right, let's see here. Is there any more? Is there a flyer blurb we can send to families to alert them to the program? Yes, that is what Octo is working on. It's in draft form now, and they will get that out as soon as possible to all LEAs so that you can share with your families.
If you're not, we've got a draft. Hopefully we're done with it and we can send it by the end of the week. And if not, it'll be very early next week.
Awesome. All right, so let's go over to the next sheet in the Qlik application, Leah. The next sheet refers to all of the students who are experiencing homelessness. So this sheet identifies your students who are experiencing homelessness and students who receive TANF and SNAP eligible, as well as those who do not. So as long as they're flagged in the SIS, in your student information system as experiencing homelessness, they will appear in this sheet. And this is where Octo is going to work with them to get them MiFis as opposed to internet connection at a stable address. Lindsay is flagging me. You're on mute.
Now I'm on mute?
No, you're good now.
Okay, good. I lost my little bar. I don't know what I did. I don't know this tool. I will figure it out. We are not providing the MiFis.
Okay.
So we have $3 million in GEER funding from OSSI to spend on residential internet, and we're gonna try very hard to make sure that we've got residential internet connections in as many households that need them as possible. What I and I think, do you have that slide deck, Stephanie, that we presented yesterday? Because I don't mind sharing that with everybody.
Okay.
And if not, I'll get that.
What I did you missed this first part. I took the things from your slide deck and added it here. So it's
Okay.
on we'll go back to it at the end. It's on my slide deck.
The thing with the MiFis is what I'm hoping to do is encourage each of the LEAs to prioritize the MiFis that you already have with our homeless families, with families that have multiple homes. So I'm going to provide one home internet connection per student. Right now, I want to kind of see if I can get to every student, and then come back and see if we can do two and pay for two. But for right now, prioritize homeless families, families that have multiple homes that the student is going in between. And then lastly is large families that have sort of many users, is it over 4 or over 5 users at home that are depending on this one home internet connection. Can you prioritize giving those families MiFis? I do not have MiFis. And I do not have funding to pay for MiFis at this time. And I'm sorry about that.
All right, great. So we'll continue the conversation. We may have to have a side chat, Lindsay, to make sure that we're all on the same page on that. So we talked about the native that are not native English speakers. Some of our students are native English speakers, even though their parent guardians are not. This should always help to reach out to those particular families. You should definitely be reaching out to your families to inform them while we wait on documentation and further peripherals from Octo to share with families. You should, as much as possible, go ahead and start alerting your families of the fact that this is coming and what they should be receiving. We're pulling the homeless code from the SIS as of last night because the data is updated. So we have your ADT feed, or the connections for the year-end transition into school year 2021 has already occurred. So we are pulling your homeless code from your SIS every day. And so one thing to consider, and I said this on the last call, one thing to consider is that sometimes for your student information systems, some things are just carried over from year to year. And so you need to make sure that you are reflecting accurate, consistent data for these students for the homeless flag. So make sure that you update that information. Do you recommend contacting only the families identified in clear GEER reports? Yeah, these are the only families that we are showing that are going to be eligible for this fund. And so contacting those outside of this is only going to create a little confusion and chaos because they would not have met the criteria. So I would only recommend pulling the students that are in this population within the application for contact to families. All right, so if we can go to the last sheet in the application. Okay, this last sheet in the application is just reflecting those students for your reporting needs at your LEA of those students who were ever eligible for this GEER fund, so that you have an idea. So once a student exits your LEAs, they would no longer be in sheets 1 and 2, but we wanted to give you insight to all of your families who ever were eligible while they attended your LEA, and they would appear here in this last sheet called ever GEER eligible. Okay, so that is the Qlik application. While we switch over to, because I'm going to present here, while we switch over to the Qlik application, it definitely takes control of presentation. Leah, can you ask the question that's being posed by Megan in the chat, and we'll get that answer while I switch over.
Yes.
there's
We
somebody else.
have cleared out our homeless data to prevent the inaccurate overflow from last year and are entering students daily. They will continue to be pulled. Did I understand that correctly?
I think this is an
that is correct. As you update your student information system on a daily basis, every night your data feeds to OSSI. So whatever you updated during the day will feed to OSSI. Let's use the day as an example. Whatever you updated now, today is going to feed to OSSI tonight, and you'll see that in the system tomorrow. Let me get this shared.
Should I read this next question, Stephanie? Is that all right?
Sure.
All right, so just to clarify, if a family has Comcast Internet Essentials that our school is paying for currently, they will be able to sign up for OSSI's Internet, and then OSSI's, I like that. And then it can get switched over. They will still need to follow all the same steps like normal as if they were a family that didn't already have access, correct? Yeah, so exactly. So we're gonna send you these slides, but there's basically, and I think we're adding one more question, but there's basically 4 questions that we're gonna ask via text, robocall, or email. And so we need them to say, yes, I need free internet from the government. And I consent to having Comcast and RCN, I consent to sharing my information with Comcast and RCN. And yes, this is my address. That's sort of the general kind of Q&A that we're gonna be asking. So yeah, we're gonna need you to help make sure that your families understand that they should say yes if you want them to move who's paying over to us, to Octo.
All right, so I don't see any other questions. There's one other question. If families have an outstanding bills with RCN and Comcast, will this service still be accessible to them?
Great question. Yes, the service will still be accessible to them. Since the government is paying for it, there's no credit check or anything like that.
Awesome. So what you see on the screen now is the QuickBase application, which is titled the School Year 2021 GEER Fund Connection Address. This application should only be used when a student address is not the location for the service for internet connection. When the internet connection address is different than the student's address. And therefore, we would need you to come to this location, to this site, to go ahead and enter in the connection address information. All of these fields are required that we talked about earlier, except for when the state is not DC, then the quadrant is not a required field. When you come into this system, you can search by the student's name to pull up students, because LEAs can have a large set of students who qualify, or you can go directly by clicking on to view that student and look at the student's information. In the student's information section, it's only going to reflect the address as we see coming across from your student information system for that particular student. This is considered the first address that we're going to send to Octo unless you have updated to a different address, which is the connection address. Remember, only change to a connection address if the service location for internet is other than the student's street address that is listed in your student information system. If you get to this application and you start typing in and you realize, oh, what I'm typing here is the same as what I see in student information, you need to stop. Do not save it. Go ahead and move towards canceling out this update, because we're still going to use the student address. Again, you should only use the student connection address when the address is other than the student's address that you send across in the feed. With that being said, if you need to make that update, you'll just click edit in the system. And once you click edit, you'll come over and you'll go ahead and fill out that information, which is the first and last name of the point of contact at that address, the address phone type, the connection address phone number. The email address is not required, but if you have an email, please go ahead and put that in. The student connection address is required, as well as the city and the state and the zip code. So we ask that you have all information on hand at the point that you're ready to enter in a new connection address. All right, so I have a few questions, and I think Lindsay is typing, but we'll call them out loud. It said a Comcast rep told me that they would not switch a subscriber from existing Internet Essential because it would be an existing account and the Octo contract only.
Yep, and that kind of goes hand in hand with these last two questions.
Okay, let's see. Covers new enrollees. Comcast said they would not consider them at all because Octo contract does not cover existing subscribers. You want to answer both of them together, Lindsay?
Yeah, I think so. So David, always feel free to send me a note, lp@dc.gov, stands for Lindsay Parker, lp@dc.gov, with name, right, when you talk to them. But the funny thing is, I have a 5:30 meeting this afternoon to finalize our contract. So there's no contract in place. So that rep doesn't know what they're talking about. And just so you know, if your family, we have a field actually in the conversation with Comcast where they're going to be sending us back. This is an IE customer already. Would you, and so you're going to switch to paying for this IE customer already. So just so you know, that is, we've worked that out in the process, and so you're not getting accurate information.
All right, great. And it says, what if it is a daycare provider? Aja, I always get her name pronounced correctly. If you want to come off of mute, and Leah, if you'll unmute her so that we can get a further understanding about the question, what if it is a daycare provider? Because I know that we're only, go ahead.
So we have a student, he's going to be at a daycare during the day where he's going to be doing work virtually at the daycare. What if the daycare provider doesn't give him access to their Wi-Fi per se? How would that work? Will we still have to do another connection site address?
So these things make me think that, there's just going to be some extenuating circumstances, right? Like us providing internet essentials for a daycare is probably not going to be realistic. So that individual, if they can't get access to the internet, then that would be somebody that I would, if I were you, I would prioritize. I don't have MiFis, but if I were you, I would prioritize giving that student a MiFi. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. They're thankful for your explanation about talking to Comcast tonight and making sure everybody gets on the same page. So wonderful. So we're going to switch over to the last slide for today's session.
And while you do that, I'll read the final question.
Yep.
Good idea.
Good idea.
Will the flyer prompt families to connect with the school to update the student connection address for families not at their residence during the day? Yeah, that's the kind of that's the very careful communication that we're trying to provide to you. So yeah.
Wonderful. All right, so our last slide talks about what are the next steps you should be taking as an LEA. You should review your students' data in the Qlik application for accuracy of the following fields: the student address, that the primary guardian is flagged in the sys feed, and the parent guardian contact information. Ensure that it is updated and accurate as much as possible. Where needed, complete the student connection address in the QuickBase application. I do not expect to see 33,000 students across the district who are eligible and then see 33,000 connection addresses. I'm gonna go crazy if I see that. Lindsay's gonna go crazy too. So please make sure that you are only updating the student connection address where applicable, meaning that the address where they need internet access is not the student's address. And then for any questions that you may have, please submit an OSCE support tool ticket in the system. And then I've already trained the liaisons on both applications this morning. And so that if they have additional questions that they can't answer that you submit, they're gonna level them up to me so that if I need to reach out to Lindsay or Nina, who was with us on the earlier session, I will be doing so and getting an answer back to you. Now, we know that this is a very quick and fast turnaround, meaning that I need you guys to start looking today. and I need you to try to get as much information updated by Friday, which is very fast. So we all know that this is a very time constraint effort, but we want to make sure that you can get out there and do it as quickly as possible. And we're always here for you. Lindsay has given you her email address if there are particular questions around the process and the funds that you need to reach out to her. And then everybody knows my email address. If there are things that you just need to reach out to me regarding, we can do that and definitely get you guys the assistance and answers that you need to make sure that we can get this done in a timely manner. Lindsay, do you want to add any additional information?
Just that, the Office of the Chief Technology Officer, this is not normally our kind of what we do. And so we really appreciate all the help that we've gotten to kind of get us this far. It took us a second to communicate or to negotiate with Comcast, as I indicated. RCN is an exceptional partner, just so everybody knows. So it took us a little bit longer than we wanted to. And I realize now the burden is on LEAs to make sure that this information is accurate, and I really appreciate it. I honestly know how crazy your day is right now, but thank you, because I think this is a really important thing to make sure that we're helping, and the goal here is essentially to help 25,000 households ensure that they've got home internet for the year, so that's what we're trying to do quite quickly, but obviously not in time for the first day of school, which I understand is a pain. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay, for joining us. I will say in closing, thank you everyone for getting your SIS connected through the ADT configuration process. All LEAs have been connected to OSSI systems, and we are good to go on that front. We'll talk with you again on next Thursday, September the 3rd at 11 a.m. for our monthly LEA data discussion meeting. We will probably talk about this again and make this one of the topics for that session. And so I look forward to seeing you then. Have a great start of school for those who've already started, and for those who are starting on Monday. Exciting, yay, 2021 looks very different than 1920 when we got started. So good luck and see you on next Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Stephanie, for having me.
Bye-bye.